The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Al-Haji Yahya Jammeh, President of the Republic of Gambia. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. On behalf of the General Assembly, I have the honor to welcome to the United Nations His Excellency Al-Haji Yahya Jammeh, President of the Republic of the Gambia, and to invite him to address the Assembly.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله رب العالمين. Your Excellency Mr. John Ash, President of the 60th session of the United Nations General Assembly, Your Excellency Mr. Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Majesties, Excellencies, distinguished heads of state and government, ladies and gentlemen, we praise the Almighty Allah for making possible yet again a gathering of world leaders. I would like to congratulate you, Mr. President, on your election to preside over the 60th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Your impeccable credentials and extensive experience in multilateralism will undoubtedly enrich the debates and proceedings of this session. You have the full support of my delegation. In the same vein, I wish to pay tribute to your predecessor, Mr. Vuk Yaramik, for his sterling leadership during the 67th session. Our special thanks go to His Excellency Ban Ki-moon, the UN Secretary General, for his stewardship and the commitment he has manifested to the welfare of humanity, particularly of the Third World. Mr. President, I also take this opportunity to convey our heartfelt condolences to the President, the government, and people of Kenya who have suffered from one of the most heinous crimes against humanity. Our hearts go to the victims' families. This is a clear manifestation that terrorism in all its forms cannot be accepted. And this has also got nothing to do with our noble religion, Islam. Mr. President, as we gather for the 60th summit of our organization, we must pause and take stock of our collective record in responding to the many different global challenges that mankind has to grapple with. our global body, the United Nations, has indeed adopted countless resolutions which, if implemented to the letter, would have made the world a much better place for the whole of mankind and indeed for all other creatures of our planet. Unfortunately, some member states continue to disregard resolutions necessary for the maintenance of world peace and even question or disregard resolutions passed by this august body with impunity. The United Nations continue to be incapacitated as a result. This certainly calls for an assessment of its strengths and weaknesses with a view to rendering it more effective. Civil strife and terrorism caused by the negative behavior of some world powers are undermining human security and even the viability of states. Poverty, hunger, and diseases still decimate countless communities, while our capacity to respond to this man-made humanitarian crisis remains discriminatory and inadequate. Mr. President, this is demonstrated yet again in the case of Syria. We believe the creation of this organization in the first place is to find those lasting solutions for peace and the protection of human life. Informed and honest decisions should be made instead of those driven by the interests of a few self-appointed gods, thereby causing irreparable damage to the social fabric and economies of these countries in conflict. My government supports the view that the regional organizations in the Middle East should take the lead in such negotiations for a resolution of the crisis in Syria. The tragedy unfolding in Syria has become a scar on our conscience as a civilized people, and this war must be stopped by all means necessary. Mr. President, all that we hear is the talk about chemical weapons and the need to ensure that they are not used by anyone. This does not make any sense as long as the barbaric war has not been put to an end immediately. Whether chemical weapons are used or not, thousands of people will continue to die in the most horrific manner. It is the same horrific and senseless death, and our duty is not to choose what form of death is acceptable and what is not. Our duty is to stop the senseless and barbaric killings in Syria. We as the UN must end this war immediately, otherwise the people of Syria would continue to perish at the hands of these satanic and sadistic forces. The UN Security Council and all the powers behind the war in Syria must not only prevent the use of chemical weapons, but must also bring this brutal war to an immediate end without preconditions. The Syria war must be stopped and stopped now. Mr. President, the 2013 MDG's report on Africa's performance reveals mixed results. Africa's substantial progress towards many goals, targets, and indicators is beyond doubt, but serious challenges still remain, especially in translating economic growth into decent job opportunities, improving service delivery, and minimizing income, gender, and spatial inequalities. Violent conflicts and economic shocks in some countries, as well as unprecedented natural disasters over the decade, induced by climate change, have caused setbacks to the achievements of the MDGs in many countries. Despite these challenges, some African countries, and the Gambia in particular, are making impressive gains on some of the set goals. My government is on track to achieve the education MDG target for net enrollment in primary education and literacy rate among the population aged between 15 and 24 years. My government has made serious